hold up, I am on my way, I'm in motion. Let's go to the ocean. Yeah, let's go outside. We can hang out on the beach without freezing. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Welcome to Crafty Beach. This is Julie. Today I put together 15 of my favorite beach DIYs that I've done so far here on my channel using supplies from the Dollar Tree. So let's get crafting. Okay, this is probably one of my favorite DIYs I've ever done. We're going to turn this little bamboo wreath from the Dollar Tree into a sea turtle. I had this vision in my head and I just had to make it. And I thought these things are kind of moldable, right? So I'm going to kind of mold it a little bit to try to make mine an oval to look like a turtle shell, right? Now, I know these can be kind of hard to find at Dollar Tree, so you might have to get it somewhere else. I was lucky enough to find this one at Dollar Tree, the grapevine wreath. Then I wanted to use some of their wire jute to try to make a turtle shell. So I start off here by just kind of stabbing that into the grapevine wreath and wrapping it around to get me started. And I go up in like a dome shape, like a turtle shell would be, cutting out enough to be able to wrap around the other side. Now this is going to be like my highest point here in the shell, arching above the top of my shell, like that. And the wire jute does fray. You might want to glue the tips first. As you can tell, mine was fraying a little bit at this point. So I'm going to have to trim that down a little bit. But I think this is going to be cool because it's going to match with like the grapevine wreath and it has that nice jute twine appearance. But the wire inside lets us mold the shape that's going to give the structure to the shell. So I got the centerpiece done just doing the piece next to it, trying to cut it a little bit longer this time so I can like wrap it all the way around. Because I'm anticipating the fraying. I probably should have just hot glued it at the tip, but we're kind of going with it here. Just cutting off the fray and trying to hide any of the excess wire. One more piece should fill it out over on this side. And then we can go ahead and start working on the other. What I want to do is kind of make a woven wreath to represent the shell of the sea turtle. So a total of 5 of the jute wires going the long direction of our oval will provide the structure to this DIY. Now, what I want to use to go like cross and through the shell is a Dollar Tree white rope. I thought the contrast of the white and the brown would look really cute. If you wanted yours to be all one color, you could use the Dollar Tree brown rope. But this is the one we're going to use today. It is kind of the thinner one, I believe, the 11 foot. And I just kind of want to weave it through the shell. I'm trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to start right here just over on one side by hot gluing that underneath the little grapevine wreath so we can get started weaving that. And I'm just going to weave over under just like a grid. I'm only going to do the 3 on the first one because that's all you have on that far side of the shell. So I cut that one down to size and glue that on to get started. I did find it's a little messier when you cut each piece, so I'm going to try to leave it connected as much as I can. I'm going to go ahead and start my next row by using the very last one here at the end, the 5th rope, and glue that under, and then just weave under and over the little wire jute, doing the opposite pattern that we did before. So this is kind of like some of the rope woven wreaths that I've done. But the difference with this one is I built the structure myself with that wired jute. So I'm going to pull this through here. This is when I was like, maybe I should not be cutting it and just keep weaving. And that's what I did. I just went under over, and now I'm weaving through in the opposite pattern. And it's fine that you can see the wired jute through because it's the jute, so it's going to be pretty as well. And it's going to help form the pattern. I go to the end, go over, we're coming back here with another row. And we're just going to keep weaving this until the entire turtle shell is woven. You know, you could do maybe a different pattern to make each one like look different. If you're going to do like a different, more than one of these, it'd be really cute to do like a set of them, like swimming up a wall. Maybe I'll try to do some more of these. I'm currently decorating my Florida room. You guys have inspired me to decorate out there. I usually try not to have too many decorations out there because of hurricanes, but I think I need a little bit more decor out there. So that is how far one of the ropes went. I'm just going to glue that down here on the side of my wreath. And then we can start a new package. So it covered about half of the little turtle shell with the one package. I wish that my rope was long enough to go around. It wasn't. And so I'm just going to go ahead and glue two together. If you use enough hot glue, you can kind of hide the starting and stopping of the rope like that. You can kind of mold it a little bit. But then with my new rope, I'm just going to keep weaving that same pattern that we did before until our entire little turtle is covered. I love this DIY. I was leaving it up year round. I must have taken it down for Christmas because I recently found it and had to put it back up on my wall because it's so cute. I love it. And not cutting, it definitely speeds up the process of this, and it's going to make it look cleaner too. I just went over the edges, and that allowed me not to cut. So our final piece, just gluing that down to the inside of the turtle shell, and there is our little sea turtle shell. It is ready for some more decorating. I'm going to use the wired jute to go ahead and form the different parts of the sea turtle too. That's going to provide some more structure for that shape. So I just go around the top of it and I'm making a little loop like, you know, the shape of a sea turtle head. And then I'm going to go on the side here where there'll be a little sea turtle flipper. And the great thing about that wire jute is you can make it exactly the way you want it. I'm going to go around and keep doing that. For a sea turtle has like 4 flippers. It also has a tail. Just cutting them down to size and feeding that around the reef form, tying that off. Now, some of you guys have recreated it and left it with just the wired jute. I do go back and add rope to mine, but you could totally leave it at this step. I'm going ahead and do the tail first so I can get it centered. They have a little pointy tail, but then they also have another set of back flippers here. And I'm just going to try to get those symmetrical, one on each side of my sea turtle too. And isn't this fun? I'm using all supplies from the Dollar Tree. I'm specifically not using the shore living items with most of these DIYs, or maybe all of them, just because I know that some of your stores are sold out. So that's what it looks like with just the wire jute. It's super cute. I have brown walls though, so I kind of wanted the contrast of the white rope. So I just hot glue white rope right on top of the wired jute to make mine a little bit larger and a contrast against my wall. And I'm just cutting the pieces down to size. That one was a little bit long. And I'm going to do both of sets of flippers, the tail and the head, and the white rope until they're all covered with white. I think the pattern of the shell turned out really good. Definitely the wire jute is necessary to provide you that structure of the shell that you can weave in. But it was the first time I'd ever really made my own structure for weaving with rope, and I think it turned out really fun. If you wanted yours to be a regular turtle instead of a sea turtle, you could always, instead of making flippers, you could always just make little turtle eggs. And that is how he looks. I think he's so cute. I'm just going to clean up any strings of hot glue that I might have with my heat gun. Or any of it that you could see, kind of melt that. I think it looks really pretty. Here's our little rope sea turtle wreath. This would be so cute hanging on your door as a wreath. I actually just hang mine on my wall, and I hang it by one of the front flippers, so it kind of hangs at an angle to make it look like it's swimming. I don't really attach like a hanger or anything to it because it has the wire jute right there, or you can just hang it with the actual wreath form and a nail. And this is how it looks hanging on my wall. It is really so cute. Okay, for the next DIY, we're going to be doing a mermaid sign DIY. The mermaid sign is a little different this year. They have it in the crafter square, so you would have to substitute with that one, but I think it would work. I'm going to take 2 of these long wood signs from the Dollar Tree to make a larger sign. You could also use, the long signs that are kind of white and distressed. I thought about that, but I kind of wanted this size exactly, and I kind of wanted to do like a slatted wood pattern. I'm going to have kind of a gap between the two and just attach them with those popsicle sticks. I also alternated which end the holes were in on the sign there. So, sometimes you guys don't like it when I don't fill the holes, but sometimes like on this one, I do it on purpose because it really adds to the coastal farmhouse vibe of an old board. If it has holes in it, I think it's fine. But first we are going to paint it ivory. And we're not going for a full coverage. It's okay if a little bit of wood shows through. That's going to give it that coastal farmhouse vibe for sure. And a quick sand, and I think these things are ready to put together. You want to try to make sure they're not bowed. Mine are slightly bowed, but not too bad. I think we're going to be able to straighten it out. With the braces, we're going to use the popsicle sticks. And I'm just going to leave these natural wood. I think that's going to be fine. I just start in the middle, hot gluing that on. And then I'm going to use a total of 5. The reason I'm using so many is because I want to try to fix that bow issue to make this like a slat board sign. If you're going to use this outdoors, you're going to want to use like thicker wood or double these up. I thought about making this an outdoor sign, but I ended up making it for my house. So I think the thin wood is going to work. When I glue them on, I kind of hold it down, trying to straighten out that bow a little bit. And I do finally get it to cooperate. So we're going to glue down our 5th and final brace, and we have a nice large little coastal sign that we can decorate. Now, I'm going to start by using some of my stencil vinyl. I cut this out on my Cricut, and I will share the Cricut file below if you want to recreate this. But I used the word mermaid, something that I found in Cricut Design Space. And then I typed in the word crossing because I couldn't find a mermaid crossing image, and that's what I wanted this to say. I want to do a really fun mermaid sign. So I cut these out that they would fit on one of the slats of the sign. And I love this stencil vinyl. It's a #1 thing I use my Cricut for, is to make stencils. I always have that linked in my Amazon shop below, as well as this paper transfer paper that works so good. It doesn't damage paint. The only thing is you have to kind of look through it, to kind of line it up. But it does such a great job, and it retains its stickiness, so you can always reuse it. I'm going to go ahead and reuse that piece here on the second one too. Had a hair in there, So got that down secure, and I'm going to use that same transfer paper to put this part of the stencil down as well. I wanted to do like a kind of a bright blue teal against the ivory. So that's what we're going to paint that, because that's also kind of what we're going to do with the mermaid. I found some great sequins from the Dollar Tree for the mermaid tail, and it turned out so cute. So I don't really have a color that matches, so I mix like turquoise and this more like ocean blue color together until I get like the exact kind of color that I want that's going to kind of match that sequins for our little mermaid tail. And then just using a dauber from the Dollar Tree, we are going to daub on top of our stencil. I don't really mind if I have a tiny bit of bleeding, so I'm not going over it with ivory or Mod Podge or anything first. Just doing one coat of that teal color all the way across. And I do give it a pretty good dry before I try to remove the stencil vinyl. And it did a pretty good job. The cursive can be a little bit trickier, but this one turned out pretty good as well. You kind of have to be careful if you do use a heat gun like I do, that you don't melt your vinyl too much, but looks pretty good. So let's just weed out the rest of our stencil, and we have the top half of our mermaid crossing sign. We are going to have one of those little mermaids that like swims across the bottom part of this sign, and it turned out so cute. I love this DIY. So I got a good dry. I like to sand it a little bit with the hand painted signs to kind of flatten it out, distress it slightly. And I'm going to do like a coastal farmhouse vibe on this one, even though I'm also going to have like a lot of glitz and glam on the mermaid too. I kind of mix the two styles together just by slightly distressing all of that writing that we just did with some ivory. And it actually worked out good mixing the two styles together. So this is the mermaid from the Shore Living line. Normally I can pop the little starfish off these pretty well, but I don't know what my deal was on this one, but I broke that little starfish, and I must have not had a very clean spatula either, because I kind of made a mess out of her, but that's okay. We're going to clean her up here with a little bit of Goo Gone and have a little perfect surface that we can make a little mermaid on. I'm not going to worry about the hole in her tail or in her hair because I have plans to cover those up, but we are going to bling out this mermaid. The first thing I'm going to do is use that same teal color that we used to paint the top part of the mermaid sign, and I have the stencil dauber, so I might as well just use it, and I'm just going to paint all over our little mermaid, making her that bright teal color. I don't use that color very often, but I really like how this DIY turned out. I think it's really pretty. Now, I do have plans to cover parts of her, but in case you could see anything through, it's going to have that nice base color underneath. Now, my plan was to use some of the sequin swatch from the Crafter Square at Dollar Tree. I thought this would be perfect for a mermaid tail. You guys know I'm always trying to find a new kind of texture or material that I can use to cover these mermaid tails. And sequins definitely looks like fish scales. And so this is that like sequins that you push one way, it's one color. Another way, it is the blue color. I'm just making sure that I get them going the right way so that I can do that before I attach this to my mermaid. Now, it's not quite long enough to cover the entire tail, but that's okay because the very like tip of the tail, I thought we could do something else anyway. I just wanted to cover the main part of the tail. Now, it has like a black fabric on the back of it, so that'll be easy to kind of write against. I'm just using a white paint pen, and I'm just going to kind of sketch out the shape of her tail on the back. You could totally use chalk too, or whatever you have. And we can cut that out. I think my camera died here, but basically I just cut this down to size, cutting off the tip part, and we have the perfect little mermaid tail. It is so bling. I absolutely love how this turned out. Just trimming up any like sequins that were kind of overlapping the edges a little bit to kind of clean it up a little bit. And look how pretty that is. I love this. I found it in a couple different colors, but this one really reminded me of a mermaid. I think I also got it in purple, the sequins. So just using hot glue, we're going to secure that onto our little mermaid. And making sure all of her scales are all kind of going the same way. And really, I don't want any of them like overlapping the edges. I want the straight, clean lines of the mermaid. I did notice that her waist wasn't real secure, so I'm just going to reinforce that a little bit with some hot glue. And then we can keep decorating this guy. I love it. It's so shimmery. So I thought I could use some of this like diamond mesh wrap. It's a very similar color from the Dollar Tree to kind of do her tail. You could kind of use whatever you want. I thought this would cover up that hole in the bottom and coordinate nicely with the sequins. I do have a little bit of leftover sequins. If you wanted to go all the way down and cover the tip of the tail too, you could probably do that. But I just kind of sketched that out on the back. Can't really write on that slick surface, but you can kind of, you know, leave an indent, which makes it easy to cut. And you're going to want to cut this first before you try to attach it to the tail, I think. There's the little diamond mesh wrap. This stuff is so easy to work with because it is just a giant sticker. So just peel and stick. I did notice I trimmed it a little short at the very, like where it comes together. So I'm just going to cut a loose one and secure that in there to kind of fill that up. With a little bit of hot glue because those individual ones aren't going to stick real well. Now for the teal mermaid body, I wanted to stress it with a little ivory to kind of give that same distressed coastal farmhouse vibe that we did on the top part of the mermaid sign. And I'm going to leave her body and her face that blue color. I think that's going to be fun. But I did want to do something fun for her hair. I thought we could go ahead and attach it now, though, to the sign. That's going to make it a little bit easier to work with. And it fits on there just perfectly. So just a little hot glue all over. And it can kind of overlap to the board sign up top. And she's so pretty. Okay, I wanted to try a technique for her hair. This is the same technique that I used on my mermaid on my shell video, one of my other new short living DIY videos this year. I have lots of these guys. You'll have to check them all out. And I thought I could just unroll some of that brown rope from the Dollar Tree to make beautiful mermaid hair. So I'm going to start along the very top, kind of trying to keep that together. When you unwind this thinner brown rope from the Dollar Tree, you can get like 3 little pieces, and it's already got like those like beachy mermaid waves, so that works perfectly. I'm also going to do one all along the very outer edge of the top to kind of cover up that seam. And we're going to have it all like flowing back like she is swimming, and all of her long hair is like kind of flowing back. Now, I don't want to cover up like too much of her face. And so I kind of just start back a little bit each time. And so I do kind of have to trim them, even though I had them kind of all cut down the same size. And just kind of overlapping them slightly. I kind of want to cover the blue paint. And I don't really want to see very much of that, like in the cracks between. So I just keep cutting down pieces of that rope about the same length, and then unwinding them and gluing the little curls on. She kind of has like crazy hair there in the front, but I will go back and fix it a little bit. And then I like to kind of do like some just kind of going out from the very top of her hair, kind of going straight out to kind of give her a little bit of a hairstyle. And I don't want it like flowing out too far from the sign because it's going to be a sign hanging on the wall. So I want it to be relatively flat, so I kind of glue it back down like that. I also decide just to cut one piece a little bit shorter and kind of unwind it, kind of give her like some hair here on front that kind of like looks like bangs. Just because it's not very attractive at the top, but I think that looks a little bit better. So there is her mermaid hair. I love how sparkly and shiny this little mermaid turned out, and I think it's so cute. What do you guys think about this? This would be really cute in a bathroom. This would be really cute in a little girl's room as well, I think. I'm not sure where exactly I'm going to put it in my house. I'm going to have to get creative. Maybe the guest room. That might be fun. So I just flip it over, take a little twine. All I'm going to do is tie some knots that I can glue down to the back of the sign and just attach it to the back with hot glue. It's not very heavy because those little signs from the Dollar Tree are relatively thin. And we have a little hanger. Isn't she cute? I just love the sparkles. This is how it looks hanging in my home. And I don't think from this angle you can get like a proper gleam of how sparkly she is. So I'm going to show you also from another angle so you can kind of see when the light hits this thing, how pretty it is. Isn't that fun?
And I did end up hanging this out in my Florida room, and it has actually held up really well out there. It's going strong. Up next, we're going to do a shell box.
I picked up quite a few of these little craft woods at the Dollar Tree because I want to make a shell box. I'm using one of these little signs I found at Target Dollar Spot, but you know what? They have these at the Dollar Tree now too, very similar, so you could totally do it with a $1.25 one instead. This one was $3. It was the exact size I wanted, and so I'm going to use that craft wood to make sides for my little shell box. So I cut it the exact length of my little picture in the back to make a side for the shell box. I want to make a shell box where I can put my shells in after I get back from the beach. And this is something I use all the time. It's so fun and so coastal and beachy. So I cut down another piece for that side. Now this end, I'm going to have to cut from the inside of one piece to the inside of the next piece. So it will fit in there. I'm not doing any miter corners or anything like that. These are all very easy cuts. So we can just square in another side. And I have enough left of that piece to do the other side as well. So I think 3 pieces of craft wood to do the sides. That looks like it's going to work like that. Now I do want an area open on the top of the box so that I can deposit the shells inside. So I'm just using my ruler to cut out an opening. I'm going to cut down 2 little pieces of the wood, even smaller, for the top of my little shell box. Now, I went and bought a miter saw because I love crafting, but I hate cutting. I know some of you guys don't cut, but it's really not that complicated with this thin craft wood from the Dollar Tree. You can always get one of those little miter boxes and saws. I think Harbor Freight has them for like $12. It really doesn't take too much to cut this wood. And I am just hot gluing those all on to the frame. Boxing that in, trying to make my corners as square as I can. And then the top part, gluing the 2 sides on the top. And even though I do have a miter saw, I usually don't miter my corners. It's so much easier not to do that. And then I'm going to continue building the box out with that craft wood on the top. This time I'm going end to end for the top and the bottom pieces like that to box it in. So I'm cutting these longer than the top and the bottom pieces to overlap the sides. And this time I will go in and just cut out 2 more pieces the size of the sides that will fit in there. It's going to make the box a little bit stronger. The fact that I built them kind of opposite of each other. So I have all 4 panels like that we can put together. These I'm going to decorate, make them the front of our shell box. I think they're going to be really cute. Just sanding that up. That is how the front of the box is going to look. And so I thought I would just go ahead and construct the front frame separately and using my staple gun to staple the wood together here on the seams, which is a very common construction technique when you're building stuff like that. If I could get my staples all in the right spot, that would be great. Trying to keep my head out of the shot. Now to cover the front of the box, I'm going to use some of this chicken wire from the Dollar Tree. And if you can't find chicken wire, you could always use like any kind of a net material to give you like a fishnet thing or something like that. But I like this. I think this looks great on the front of this, and it serves a purpose. It keeps all of my shells in the box, but you can see through it, so you can see all the pretty shells that I put inside. So I'm just cutting that down to size to go over the little window in the front of my box. And again, just using my staple gun, I'm going to staple that chicken wire down. I wish they did a better job of keeping this chicken wire in stock at the Dollar Tree because I find it's few and far between. But if you want chicken wire, you might be able to get it somewhere else. And there is the front of our little shell box. I think that's going to work. We're going to go ahead and just put hot glue all along the edges of the side panels and glue that onto the front. Very rustic, little chicken wire shell box. And I'm just trying to check to make sure everything is square. And the chicken wire is going to hold. I think it looks great. I do want to kind of fill in some of the holes from my rustic corners though, or if there are any gaps anywhere that I see along the box. So I'm just using some spackle and my finger just to kind of fill in any openings because I'm sure it's not completely square all over. I never claimed to be a carpenter. So I'm just going to fill those in before we paint and decorate the shell box. And it actually is pretty sturdy, believe it or not. Now, the color I want to do is, I'm going to do like a turquoise mixed with white to give me a light turquoise color for my box. So just mixing white in until I get like the perfect color that I'm looking for. And we're just going to paint the box. What I want to do, I made those panels on the top and the bottom of the box a little bit longer because I plan to put words there. I'm going to use my Cricut, kind of take you through the design process of how I made the words. And I will include the Cricut file if you would like to recreate this yourself in the description down below. But I just paint the sides, any of the front parts that's going to be visible. We're going to make it this beautiful color of light turquoise. And you can tell that we use like a high quality wood because you can see that wood grain kind of through it. Adds to the coastal rustic appeal. Just trying not to get any on the chicken wire. Now, this is my Cricut design space. What I always start out with is a square. Change the dimensions on that by unlocking it and making it exactly the size of my top panel and my back panel. And I found a fun saying to put on here. I'm going to have it say, every seashell has a story. And so I kind of want it to be a big, boxy, bold stencil. So I'm trying to find something. I really kind of like just a basic like Arial black, just stretching it out, kind of making it longer. I'm going to copy and paste that onto our second one and put has a story, changing that like that. Now all you have to do is go back and delete your boxes. But first, I kind of like changing the color to see exactly how it's going to look when I paint it on there. So I deleted my boxes. Now I'm going to kind of move them around because I am making a stencil. So I do want to, you know, have a little bit of room for the stencil to be on the edges so I don't get any paint on my original project. So I just had to change my mat out to 12 by 12. This is my favorite like stencil vinyl. I get this on Amazon. It's always included in the link down below. It's my favorite part of owning a Cricut is making stencils, and it's really not that hard. So I thought I would just take you through the process with me. We're just going to go in and weed this out. See how easy it is to weed when you do like a big, bold, basic column shape like that on your font. And then cut it down into the two pieces. I also get this on Amazon. This is my paper, Cricut transfer paper. I love it. It does a great job. It doesn't take any of the paint off. It works great. It's my favorite. It's not transparent like the clear Cricut brand, but I like it. I can see through it enough to usually get it lined up pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and put my stencil here on the top part of our shell box and peel off that paper. One custom little stencil there, and then we're going to put the other one on the bottom. I always like the white painted letters on the blue. I think it looks really coastal. So that is what we're going to do. So I got my stencil down. I'm going to use a little stencil dauber from the Dollar Tree and just some ivory acrylic and go all over our stencil. You know, I'm always going for that coastal farmhouse vibe, so I don't really care too much if I have any bleeding, but it did a pretty good job. So we're just going to peel off our stencil vinyl now that it's starting to dry and weed out the middle part of the letters. Don't be afraid to use your Cricut. They're so fun for crafting. Now I thought a perfect decoration for the side would be seashells, right? So I'm just going to pick out some Dollar Tree seashells, kind of a variety of shapes and sizes to decorate the sides of our little shell box. I think it's so pretty. I love this DIY. I have it on top of my coat rack when I first come in my door. So if I've been to the beach, there is a guaranteed chance that I'm going to have a shell in my pocket. So this is a good place that I can just dump them so they don't end up in the laundry. I'm just going to secure the little seashells to the side, and they are the perfect final touch to this DIY. There it is, our little shell box, ready for seashells. And the back, being that wood color, looks pretty too, which is why I kind of picked that. But again, they have those signs that I used at the Dollar Tree now as well. So you could totally do that with a Dollar Tree sign on the back instead of a Target one. But this was me initially dumping in a few shells to get it started.
And I still use those. It's super sturdy and really whimsical and fun if you live near the beach or you like to visit the beach. Up next, let's do a room with a view.
I wanted to take one of these little window signs from the Dollar Tree and kind of combine that with one of those shore living canvases so we can have a room with a view, right? Who doesn't want a view that looks like that? Now, this does have this little live, love, laugh. I'm just going to pop that off with some heat. Unfortunately, it does kind of leave a lot of cardboard behind on the sign. They have this wood sign at my Dollar Tree like in white or in like wood grain. Either one would be really pretty with this. But I thought we could combine that and make it look like, you know, that you have the ocean outside your window. It's kind of a smaller project, but it'd be really cute to kind of put anywhere. This would be really cute if you to have at work and you can look at it and be like, oh yeah, I'm at the ocean, right? I always save the hangers off of those canvases because they're great. I just draw the size of the window directly onto my canvas with an ink pen, and then I'm just using a razor blade and just cutting off the front of the canvas. I have excess, so I'm gonna have to be too careful with that. And then I'm gonna use my scissors and cut right inside the line. The line was the outside of the window, so I have a little bit of room, wiggle room to work with there. And then I can attach it to the back of my window like that. Now I'm trying to avoid the little holes where the hanger was because I do want to make this a hanging sign. And then I'm just going to hot glue all around the edges of the window and attach the canvas right there, lining it up right underneath the hangers. Now, I went back and forth whether I wanted this sign to be like a hanging sign or if I wanted to do like a little window box in front of it. I might go back and do the window box one too because I think that would be really cute. You could fill it with like some greenery that reminds you of the beach, add some shells, starfish, that kind of thing in there. But in the end, I decided just to make mine a sign. So I'm just going to take some twine. We're going to make a new hanger for this. I always like to tie these in at the front, just some Dollar Tree twine. Easy to feed through there and just knot and cut. So now I need to kind of disguise this part. I tried to remove like the cardboard here at the bottom with just some heat and like a little spatula there. It was kind of like really on there though. So I'm just kind of like chipping away at it, trying to get some of it off so it doesn't interfere with what I do down here. I even tried sanding it. It still looks a little rough. So we're going to cover it up with some burlap. This is just rolled burlap from the Dollar Tree. You can use whatever you've got. They also have like the burlap ribbon and the burlap rolls now. But I'm just cutting it down the side. I'm going to leave like the finished edge on the top just to make sure it doesn't fray up there. But I just cut it down so it's like the perfect size to cover all of that nonsense down there. And then I just Mod Podge that on because I don't really want like hot glue to like be visible through that. So I also Mod Podge on top to keep that down. Now I thought it needed some decoration, so we're going to use some more shore living decor, a little dolphin, a shell, and a sea turtle. Those little packages of wood ornaments from the Dollar Tree. They're so cute. And I'm just using a makeup sponge and some turquoise acrylic paint to make them look fun and blue. And I thought that would be cute. You could also do seashells on here. That would be really cute and easy as well. But I haven't used these little ocean creatures much this year for my DIY, so I thought I'd give it a go. 3 of them fit on there just perfectly, so I'm just going to kind of space them out, hot gluing those to the little burlap there. And it's looking cute. I did think that the turquoise needed broke up a little bit though, so I just go in with a chunky brush and some ivory, and we're going to give the lightest little coastal farmhouse distress to these, just to give them a little character. And wiping off any excess with a baby wipe. And I would love to have that view. What about you guys? I need a house like directly on the beach. But this is how it turned out. Our little window with an ocean view. A great idea to use those little canvases from the shore living line at the Dollar Tree to make something really fun. And I love all the little sea creatures there at the bottom as well. And this is how it turned out.
If you're enjoying today's video, don't forget to hit that like button. It always helps my videos do better here on YouTube. Up next, you guys were asking for whale DIYs.
I'm going to dupe this. I found this Whales on Wood art print online, and I thought we could do something very similar. So what I did is I got all these like watercolor whale images to try to recreate it. I really like the watercolor look of the whales. And down below, I will include a link to all of these whale files for you so you can recreate this project. But basically all I did was print them out like on a regular printer, just on cardstock. I get cardstock at Target or wherever I can get it. It's pretty inexpensive, and you can see how stiff it is. It's going to make kind of a durable object that we can Mod Podge on. This whale kind of has a mouth to cut out, and I'm just going in and cutting all of those out. I think I found a good variety. I will include the whales like individually and all together. If you have any trouble downloading the files, let me know and I will try to upload them on our Facebook group. Okay, now for the sign part. You guys know I love crafting with these wall shelves from the Dollar Tree. And this one, and we're going to use 5 of them. I love them because they're nice and thick. They're cute wood, but you can also paint them. I like the idea of being able to tie different signs together. It's really going to give it a coastal feel. So first up, we're just going to remove all these from the packages and cut off all of the hangers. That is a good twine, and they do have little wire rings on there that you might want to save for future DIYs. But this is going to be a really cute, kind of large whale wall hanging that I still have in my hallway. I absolutely love it. It turned out fantastic. So a total of 5 signs. We're going to have 4 whales and 5 signs. So I'm going to kind of like overlap them in between the different signs, but I want to paint it. I want it to have an ivory background, so I'm going to go over the whole thing with ivory acrylic. Because the original piece that I'm trying to dupe was also, and it had a white background. So I'm kind of going for that same kind of look, but using supplies from the Dollar Tree. The original whale sign that I'm trying to dupe was from Kirkland, and it was $60. So I think we can do it. Now I just go over it with a couple coats of ivory. I really want like a sharp contrast with the whales we're going to add to this piece, and I really want that to be bright and ivory on the back. I find it easier to kind of paint these before I attach them together. Now another thing I'm going to do before I attach them together is add our whales. As you can see, I alternated. I have 2 going right and 2 going left, and so you can kind of alternate them as well. Now, while I have my signs like touching, as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and attach my whales because like I said, I have 5 boards and 4 whales, so we're going to be cutting these guys. I do a thick layer of Mod Podge down and then lay my little cardstock whale right on top, kind of making sure that I have it centered because I'm going to use that for reference like as I am moving down the sign. And that looks better. And then I'm going to go over the top of the cardstock with Mod Podge as well. As you can see, it holds up really well to the Mod Podge because it's such a thick paper. But I'm going to go ahead and Mod Podge it again just to make sure that it is secure. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing, moving down the sign with our other whales. Mod Podging them like right over like the seam in between the 2 boards. And you know, some of these are taller than others, but I think it's all gonna fit here nicely. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my final 2 with Mod Podge and lay those on there as well. And then we can kind of Mod Podge over the top of all of those. You're just going to want to make sure that you have them centered and pressed down well. You don't want any bubbling. Sometimes I like to go over mine with a baby wipe like that to kind of push it down and then Mod Podge over the top. I give it a quick dry with my heat gun and then Mod Podge it one more time. So basically I Mod Podge all of them. 1 time under, 2 times on top. Now, I kind of want it to look, you know, coastal farmhouse distressed. So while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and distress. I use ivory acrylic and a chunky brush, And I'm going to distress all over our little whales to kind of make them look a little bit more hand painted, like part of the sign, less like paper that we glue to it. I find that really helps. And I'm just distressing and then going over the top of that with a baby wipe, trying to wipe off the excess. And then just for good measure, and because I'm cutting these, I'm going to go ahead and Mod Podge a third time on top to make sure they're good and sealed. Now that they're dry, I'm going to go in with a Dollar Tree razor blade and try to cut these apart. Now you still have to be kind of careful because as you can see, my paper was tearing a little bit there. So be really careful. Make sure you have a sharp blade. Once I have my first sign cut off, I can kind of use my sanding block and clean up any paper that ripped. And that also kind of gives it a slightly distressed look along the edges. So I think that's going to be fine. Now we're going to go ahead and do that again here on the next sign, making sure that my paper stays put. You're going to want to make sure that you cut like in the line. It can be a little hard to see there. And as you can see, I kind of cut him wrong, but that's okay. We'll just fix it with a little bit of a Mod Podge. No big deal. Now I'm going to go ahead and sand that as well like I did before. And we'll have our like individual little boards. This one's a little easier. I'm just going to cut off his like tip of his front of his head and his tail and do the same thing here with the last sign. And I kind of like the fact that they're on separate boards. What we're going to do is hang these together. So there is going to be a little space in between each board. It gives it kind of a fun look. So we just sanded those. Now I'm going to use one of the original hangers. It has that really nice twine and we can start putting this together. I string from the back and then tie a knot in the front. And then I'm going to go over the other side and kind of do the same, stringing it in from the back and tying it on the front. The reason I'm doing that is just to fill the holes on the bottom sign because I'm going to have knots in each of the other ones. So I string it through that sign, tie a knot in the front, and now this is how we're going to connect it together. I'm going to string it through. If you have trouble getting your string to come through, you're probably going to want to add a little bit of hot glue to the end. It does make it easier to string through, but we're going to do the same thing here on the other side, stringing from the back and tying a knot in the front. So that's going to hang them together. There's a slight, it's not real big space in between, but you'll see when it is hanging that you can definitely tell they are like little individual signs all hanging together. And the reason I did it like that was, one reason is to fill the holes, but I kind of like the slatted look to the sign. I think it looks really coastal and beachy. So we're going to keep working our way up the sign we've got plenty of that rope because we had one for each one of those signs. So just keep feeding those in and tying them together. Here is the fifth and final little whale sign that we need to attach. Now we will do something different on that one because we will need a hanger. Like on the bottom, we kind of just did dummy knots down there, but this one we will actually just use it to make a hanger. So they're all attached together. Now I'm going to take apart another one of those hangers, but just take one of the strings off. That way I can use the ring to hang it. I think that will work great. I feed that in through the back. The sign is so big, it's kind of hard to keep it all in my shot. Tie it in the front. Try to kind of figure out where my center is. That's where I'm going to want my ring to be. And feed it in here from the other side and tie it off as well. And we have a little whale sign. I think it turned out so cute. You know me, I'm going to distress it one more time with a little bit of ivory just to break up some of the paper. And I felt like I had kind of wiped off a little bit too much of the distress earlier. So once I get it to a place that makes my eyes happy, we can dry this and it is going to be ready to hang on the wall. And this is how it turned out. I think it's so cute. What do you guys think about my little whale Kirkland's dupe? I think it's so fun, and I leave it up year round. I think it goes great with my coastal feel in my hallway.
And I still have it hanging in my hallway. I absolutely adore it. It's so cute and coastal. Now up next, I'm going to show you how you can take one of these like little burlap sailboat signs from the shore living line at Dollar Tree and just make it so much more special. If you kind of build it out with some Dollar Tree shelves, you can really make a really pretty coastal sign.
So I just took the twine and staples off the sailboat that were connecting them. And these are the shelves I'm talking about. It is going to take 3 because it's going to need to be a fairly large sign to have the sailboat and the sign on there. These signs or these shelves are great because they're nice thick wood. You can kind of piece them together, make whatever size sign you want. And they're a very neutral, like unfinished wood. I love building stuff with these. And so I thought we could put like 3 together like that. And then we could do like the sailboat and the sign on there like that. Now, these signs are so thick that they glue together really well, so you don't have to brace them or anything like that. You could stain it or paint the background, but I was going for texture. So again, this is the Shore Living Ivory Burlap, and I was kind of seeing if it would be big enough to cover a sign this large to give us some more texture, because we already have the burlap on the sailboat. I think that would look really cute together. So we're just going to go ahead and build our sign just by doing a bead of hot glue and aligning it to the next sign. These are all fairly flat, like really no bowing or anything like that. So they're so easy to put together edge to edge like that. And they seem to hold up really well. So we're going to go ahead and put the third one on, doing the same thing, just trying to make sure that the edges are kind of lined up as well. So we're not going to paint it or stain it. We are going to cover it with that burlap. So it's a pretty big sign. So I'm going to have to put down a lot of Mod Podge. I just use the matte Mod Podge from the Dollar Tree. It's my favorite. I love buying it in those little tiny bottles because you never have to worry about not getting the lid on and it all drying out or being just super messy. Little bottles work great. So I do a nice thick layer of Mod Podge all over. And then I didn't iron this or anything, but I'm just going to start smoothing it out all over. Again, burlap doesn't necessarily want to stick great with Mod Podge at first. So I usually have to go over the top as well, kind of pasting it down, forcing it down, if you will. So I just get it on there. I'm kind of working one section at a time, trying to get it as wet as I can with the Mod Podge and working that down into the fabric with my foam brush, but also like flattening it out as I go as well. And then I can go over that with a baby wipe, kind of spreading out our Mod Podge. And again, trying to get rid of any folds or wrinkles that we have in there as well. And then I also decided to reinforce the edges with a little bit more Mod Podge to make sure that it does not come up on our final project. Definitely want this glued down. Now you could just do burlap on each individual board before you put them together, but I thought this way might be a little easier, and we're going for some easy DIYs today. Now once that's dry, you can trim off your excess burlap. Mine was pseudo dry, so I'm having to be a little bit careful. And I'm just trying to cut as close as I can to the wood. But it is going to be a little messy at first, and I'll show you how I clean it up a little bit. So I get a general idea of how big it should be. Then I kind of turn it over, kind of see like what is like kind of hanging over the edges of my sign, and see if I can get in there with my scissors and cut it a little closer. If I can, I do that, because I really don't want anything hanging over the edges. I still want it to be like a nice, like rectangular sign background for our sailboat. The sailboat is so beautiful, you don't need to do anything to it, but just have to make a sign to go under it. It's going to make it extra special. So that looks better. I did still have a little bit of fraying. So then I followed that up with just a sanding block from Dollar Tree and kind of sand down It will kind of sand off any of those excess fibers. If you get a real long one though, it might be easier just to trim it with scissors. Otherwise, it might take out a whole row of burlap that you weren't really planning on. But that actually worked really well to clean it up even more. And I like the wood that's kind of exposed from behind. I'm just poking a hole with just a little tool from the Dollar Tree into the burlap so that we can make a hanger for the sign. The good thing about the burlap is it also covered up all of the holes in the shelves, if you remember. And so I really only need the holes in the top for the hanger. And so that was a win-win, right? I don't have to worry about trying to disguise those holes. We can just leave them in there. They're just under the burlap. I really hope you're enjoying these DIYs today. If you are, don't forget to hit that like button. When you're done watching today's video, if you could comment your favorite DIY below, I'd really appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I would really appreciate that as well. We are trying to get to 20,000 subscribers here over at Crafty Beach. So I think that looks really good together. I love the different textures of the burlaps and the different colors. So I just hot glue the little sign below. And again, they have 3 versions of these sailboats this year, and they're all adorable. The colors are also beachy. There's no glitter or anything on them, which made me so excited. They're way better than the ones they've had the past 2 years with the Shore Living line. And I hot glue all over the back of the sailboat, kind of center that on there. I will have to kind of cover up the hanger at the top. There's a hole, and the top of mine was bent a little bit. Just gonna try to fix that with glue, but I'm gonna put a little flag up there, like a sailboat flag, so I think that will kind of hide both of those. And I wanted another texture, so I had one of these little spring bags from the Dollar Tree, and I thought it would be another fun texture to add to this. So I'm just going to cut out a little piece of that bag. I think it kind of looks like seagrass. And then I'm just going to cut it into a triangle to make it kind of look like a flag. And I thought that would be another little fun, whimsical texture, since I've already got so much burlap going on. Once I get that trimmed the way I like it, I can just glue that right there. It's going to cover up the hole. It's going to cover up the pole on mine, which was a little bit broken. And glue that right down. Now, the only thing I didn't like about it at this point is that I had way more space on the sides than I had at the top and the bottom. So I'll show you how I get around that. And then, of course, you know your girl's distressing it slightly with a little bit of ivory paint just to make it look coastal. So I thought Dollar Tree rope would be great, and the brown rope would be the best because it would be a contrasting color up against that white burlap. So I just tied a knot in one end, and then I measure how long the side is, and then I just tie a simple knot in the other end. I think this is going to make it look, you know, kind of nautical, coastal vibe, and it's going to fill up that space along the sides, make it look a little bit more intentional. So once I get one made, I'm just going to go ahead and make another one at this point so that I can make sure that I make both sides the same size. So I just tie a knot at both ends. And then just make sure my knots are symmetrical. And then I can trim that one down to size as well. Super easy little detail, but I think it did add to it. It added another texture as well. This is really cute. I think I'm going to hang this maybe out in my Florida room. I've been decorating out there. I know I've been promising you guys I'm going to give you a tour. I replaced all the screens. All of my curtains are clean. Everything is coming together. The only thing I don't have done is I don't have everything hung up that I want to decorate with. But hopefully soon. Look for it probably later this week. I'll give you guys a tour of my Florida room. So I just hot glue that to the sides. Just a dot of hot glue underneath each knot on the end, and maybe one in the middle just to make sure it kind of stays in place and doesn't really, like, you know, fall away from the sign at all. But trying to keep that as straight as possible. think that was a quick, easy fix for not really liking all the excess room there on the sides. Again, this one's a lot wider than the other one that I showed you with the skinnier signs. But I think it's just as cute. And I think the rope really added another fun detail, brought it all together. So I just took a little sailboat from the shore living line at the Dollar Tree and made it into this magnificent sign. It's nice and large. It's really pretty. I love the little anchor on the burlap on the sail, and I love what it says too. So cute.
And they did bring these little burlap sailboat signs back again this year, so hopefully you were able to snag one.
Okay, next DIY. I found this food serving dish at Dollar Tree, and I thought we can make it into a surfboard. It's kind of shaped like a surfboard, right? So I'm going to use some of their faux leather from the Dollar Tree as well and see if we can get really creative. This says that it is 100% polyester. So I thought, you know, I might be able to do sublimation on this, and that's what I'm going to do on the leather, but you could always use paint in your Cricut as well. You're going to get the same effect. I will share my file today so you could do it sublimation, but I'll also share it so you can use it to make a Cricut stencil if you'd like to do that instead, because I know not everybody is set up for sublimation. So I'm just laying my little surfboard shaped dish on the back of my faux leather, just using an ink pen to draw around to mark it out so we can cut the leather down to size. Now I want to put a fun sea turtle on it, and that's what we're going to do with sublimation. But first I'm going to cut it out, and look how easy this faux leather cuts. I haven't DIY'd with this stuff very much. But this is definitely a fun option. I was a little nervous about applying sublimation to it because I was afraid that it would melt. And I find that it does kind of melt, so you're going to have to be quick with it. This is the image that I'm going to do. It is an image of a sea turtle. And I kind of have it going off the page on purpose because I'm going to kind of have it going off the side of the surfboard as well. So I printed that out mirror image on my sublimation paper, and I'm laying that on top of my faux leather using some heat safe tape to tape that down to my parchment paper. And then I'm going to cover that with more parchment paper. I'm going in there at 380 degrees for 1 minute. The reason I did 380 instead of 400 is because I was afraid it would melt. And I'm glad that I was a little bit cautious because it did want to melt a little bit. So I had to do it twice to get the entire image because it was kind of full, bigger than my easy press that I used there. And that's when I kind of noticed that there was sticking. There was a little bit of melting, but that's okay. We're going to see if we can try it again. Lesson learned, sometimes crafting does not go the way we plan. But I have more of the faux leather, so we're going to try it again. This time we're going to go a little bit easier on it. I was kind of using settings that I could use on other projects. But this is a little bit more prone to melting, obviously. So I printed out another image of my sea turtle, and taping that egg down again using all of my parchment paper to protect it. This time we're going in at 350 for 30 seconds because I'm scared. And I'm pressing it twice to get the entire image. And we will see if this works better. I wanted to make sure that it transferred, and it did. And as you can see, it's not like a real clean image transfer because I only did it for 30 seconds. But again, the melting, I kind of had to do it that way. But I kind of like it how it kind of fades in and out. I think that kind of looks cool, right? So now I'm going to lay my dish on top of the leather, and using my pen again, just draw out the shape, because this time we didn't cut it down to size first because, again, second attempt. I know you guys always say you like it when I include my failures in the videos because we all know it happens. It's always good to have a backup plan sometimes when you're trying something experimental like this. But now I'm just going to go ahead and cut that down again into the size for the surfboard. And I want to cover the entire dish like that. So what I'm going to do is go in with hot glue and glue all along the edges of my leather edge to edge. And then starting on the other side as well. I go ahead and glue all the way around, and then I wanted to frame it off with some of the nautical rope from Dollar Tree, the white rope, to finish off all the edges. It's going to kind of frame it out and cover up any of the crazy edges that might be exposed if you could see any of that print below. So I'm just going to go all the way around, hot gluing that in, and it covers like my cut edge too, so it's just going to make it look more finished. I get about here when I'm like, why did I not stuff this? Because I do want it to look, you know, like a surfboard, a little bit rounded on top. And right now it's like super flat on top. And so I do go back and stuff it a little bit just because I wasn't a big fan of the flat look at this point. But while I am finishing this off, I'm going to go ahead and just make a hanger for the back because I want this to be a piece that I can hang on my wall. I'm just going to do that with a little bit of twine and glue that on to the back with hot glue, just making a little loop at the top. So my plan to stuff it at this point is to try using my heat gun and not melt the vinyl, but loosen up the hot glue enough that I can stuff it with stuffing. And I do like it stuffed better. So if you're going to recreate this, I would encourage a little stuffing. I always like to save my old pillows to use the fluff inside. I'm just using a little piece of wood to kind of push that stuffing all the way up to the top so we can stuff this little surfboard. And I think that rounded top does look better once I get this stuffed. But you're probably going to want to do this before you have it glued down like I did. Again, this was definitely an experiment, but it turned out really cute for a little Dollar Tree surfboard, I think. And I got to have a little fun with sublimation, which I don't do too often. I need to craft more with sublimation. It's really easy and fun. So that looks better to me. And so now I'm going to glue the like faux leather back down up against my rope. Try to make that look as clean as possible down there for my little repair job. And there it is, our little turtle surfboard, kind of showing you that it's rounded now. I think that looks better like that. And the faux leather is really cool. I will definitely have to DIY with that more. I think it's really fun. This is how it looks hanging in my hallway. A little sea turtle surfboard, because of course we're doing lots of sea creatures today.
And I really kind of like trying the sublimation technique on that. But again, you could always do a stencil, kind of paint it on to get the same effect.
Okay, the next DIY, I'm going to use one of these little hyacinth chargers from Dollar General. It's only $3. It's the perfect shape for what I want to do. I think you can pretty much get these all over spring and summertime. I just wanted something that kind of looked a little bit like woven seagrass. And I want to leave the very edges that brown color that it came. But I'm just using a small brush to try to paint the second row ivory with just some ivory chalk paint. Because what I want to do is transform this charger into a giant sand dollar for the wall. It turned out so cute. It was so easy to put together. So now that I have all the edges done, it's easy, right? I'm just going all over. I did switch to a brush so I could kind of get in between the different rows. And if you can't find one of these, you know, you might be able to make one with just Dollar Tree rope, just gluing it into a spiral pattern and then painting the rope. Or you could even use white rope and you wouldn't even have to paint it. But I kind of like having the brown edges around the side. Now I'm going to use some Dollar Tree rope to make this into a sand dollar. This is the thinner brown rope, the 9.5 foot, I believe. And I'm just going to start here by, you know, the different shapes that are on a sand dollar. We're going to try to recreate it with Dollar Tree rope. All like sand dollars have like this cool little like flower pattern. So I just go around in the shape of a petal like that. And continuing it on, I'm going to do the next one, overlapping it in the middle and then making a third little flower over here on the side. Attaching that with hot glue as well. And up here, I need 2 more loops. There's like a total of 5 loops on the little sand dollar flower that they have on the shell. And as you can see, I'm just leaving it all attached, one long piece of rope. And we're just going to make this work, just overlapping the rope in the middle. It's not real thick rope, so I think it's going to be okay. If you didn't want any height in the middle, you could always cut down 5 individual pieces, but I found keeping it all together made more sense. Now the little slits of the sand dollar, we're going to replicate those with some of that rope as well. Just gluing little slit oval shapes all over the sand dollar and all the areas that it should be. They have like 3 on one side. And they have 2 on the other. So I cut down 5 pieces of rope, all about the same size. And then just attaching it with hot glue, you kind of have to let it dry a little bit so that you can mold it into your perfect little shape. I told you this was going to be easy, right? And it turned out so cute. And it's such a lightweight piece of art. It hangs easily on my wall. I like to move it around my house because I think it's really fun. So that is kind of where the last little slit would go in our little DIY sand dollar, and just attaching that with glue as well. Now I just need a hanger for the back, so I'm just going to take a little bit of twine and tie a knot at the end, and then we can just hot glue that onto the back. Again, it's so lightweight, it's easy to hang on the wall. But this will look cute on a shelf as well, leaned up against something. Our little charger sand dollar, one of my quickest, but one of my favorite beach DIYs.
And I think those chargers are pretty common if you look around. I haven't seen one at Dollar Tree, but I have found them like at Walmart, Dollar General is where I got mine. But it turned out so cute. Okay, up next, let's do a shark DIY.
I'm going to use some of this nautical rope from the Dollar Tree and just a framed sign. I got this actually at Goodwill. You can use whatever you've got. You just want something with a frame, and so we're going to go with this one. I used to get these kind of signs at Goodwill all the time for half off, but for some reason my Goodwill doesn't do like the half off sales anymore, which is kind of a bummer. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is kind of sketch out what I want this to look like. I want this to look like a shark fin, like peeking out of the ocean. So we're going to do some shark DIYs today. So I just do my best shark fin, just sketching that out to give me some reference. I saw an inspiration piece. I will try to find the link. I'm not sure if I still have the link. Just somebody that did something similar and inspired me to try some rope art, and it was so fun to make, and it turned out so cute. So I'm just going to start with a new package of white rope. I just took the tape off the end, and I am going to cut it down to size to start making our little shark fin. And what we're going to do is basically cover the entire sign with rope. And I don't have any colored rope for this DIY, but I'm going to show you how to get around that by just painting this white rope from the Dollar Tree. Like paints really well. I don't know what I have on my hand there. It must be Antique Wax by Waverly. Sorry about that. And I'm just going to glue that around my template. The reason I drew it on there was just because it's kind of a weird shape to try to make with rope. And I think that looks pretty good. Now I want to fill in the rest of the shark fin. So I'm just going to kind of do it the same way, but I'm only going to do like one side. So I do one length like that, cut it down to size. And I'm going to keep doing little like arced pieces of rope like that until I fill it all the way in. So it just kind of looks like rows of rope. This was really fun to make. I'm thinking about doing something similar in an upcoming DIY, maybe with like ocean waves or something like that. I think that would be cool. And I just keep going until I have no space left. You have to be careful when you cut the little tiny pieces. They kind of fall apart. I'm just going to glue them all in there. Okay, so the shark fin is complete. I thought we could go ahead and paint it now before we get any further. I'm just using, I think this is elephant colored gray chalk paint. Doesn't really matter, but chalk paint does really work well on fabric. So I'm just using a brush to try to get as good coverage as I can, so it kind of looks like they are gray rope. Getting down in all the like little nooks and crannies, trying to cover up as much of that white rope as I can. And I think that looks pretty good. Once I get that dry, we can start working on our ocean waves. We're doing it with rope too, but this time working like left to right, like horizontal. I'm just cutting out the strips now, so we can start gluing those down. That's about how high I want it to go up the side of the fin. But the bottom here, just 3 long rows all the way across. And then just cutting the smaller pieces down to size on the side, like 4 on each one. And just attaching those with hot glue as well. So basically just a little bit of cutting and some hot glue. Really easy to make the rope art. And now I want to do it like maybe a different direction to show the sky. But while I have this here, I'm just going to go ahead and paint it. I thought it would be easier to paint it now than to worry about trying to get some paint on the rest of the rope. I am using a chalk paint again. This time I'm mixing agave with ivory. You can probably get away with acrylic. I have painted rope with acrylic before. I had the chalk paint though. That's why I'm just going ahead and use it. I just really wanted this light blue for the ocean waves, the water, and just going ahead and painting all of that light blue color. And so this is how you can definitely make it without the colored rope, because you can always paint it. I do think you need to put the rope down first though before you paint it. Just makes it easier. And it's okay if some of the white shows through, but I'm just using some tiny brushes to kind of go around the edges, get it a little bit more colored in. And it gives you that coastal feel with like the rope kind of like overhanging on the side. So don't be afraid to go all the way over to the sides with your rope. Now for the sky, I told you I was going to go a different direction. So we're just going to go up and down for these just to provide a little bit of variety and separate it from the water. Just cutting them down to size all the way up around the little shark fin. And now that I've got them cut to size, I can go in and just glue them in. I'm doing like 2 in a row because I'm like a professional now. All the way up to the top. And these are basically all the colors that I want to do. I want to do, you know, the gray fin, the blue water, and the white rope to represent the sky. You could always do the sky in a different color of blue if you want. I kind of wanted that color in my project, so I kind of like the contrast with the light blue and the white. And I'm going to use this in one of my coastal bathrooms for decor. I think it'll be really cute in there. My son's bathroom kind of has like a coastal beachy feel. Like day at the beach kind of thing. So a little shark sighting would definitely be par for the course when we go to the beach around here. Not that they necessarily look like this, peeking out of the water like that, but usually they swim right by. So I'm just going to go ahead and go all over it with my heat gun to melt off any excess hot glue. Then I thought I would go back with a tiny brush and some of that ivory chalk paint and kind of like do like some little white caps like around the shark to kind of make it look like the ocean water is moving, and all over, just kind of doing like a little wave action here and there just to provide a little bit more variety to the color. And I thought that added a little bit of dimension to like just a 3-color project. And this is how it turned out. Our little rope shark fin. I think it is really sweet. It was really inexpensive to put together. And I think it's really fun. What do you guys think about my rope shark art, I guess we would call it?
And I have this in my son's beach themed bathroom. It's so cute and it's held up really well.
This one's going to be really fun. We're going to use some of this Shore Living white burlap from the Dollar Tree and a Dollar Tree sign. I love these signs. I chose the dark wood one because I wanted the contrast behind the white burlap. I thought that would look cool. And it's got the light wood frame. You could hang this like, up and down or sideways. They have hangers on both. And these are great value, I think, for $1.25. What I want to do is I want to cover the back of the sign with this white burlap from Dollar Tree. So I just kind of cut it down bigger than I need and give it a quick iron with my easy press to kind of get the wrinkles out, because the way that this burlap is rolled up, the wrinkles do kind of prove to be an issue when you're trying to measure something, get it straight. I want to cut this down like a perfect size to fit on that frame. I also wanted it to be a little bit stiffer so that it would be easier to cut with and stuff. So I'm actually going to starch it a little bit while I'm ironing it because I thought that would help, and it totally did. So I'm just going to spray on some heavy starch to the burlap and then iron it some more. It made it easier to cut. I know some of you guys have said that if you Mod Podge and dry it first, it's going to be easier to cut and less fraying. I kind of want a tiny bit of fraying on this, so I thought I would try starch to see if it worked, and it actually worked well. This first one was kind of cut, this first side was kind of cut straight already, and then I'm just using the grain of the burlap to cut another straight edge like that, and I just pull off the very first line to make a slight fray along the bottom. Then I kind of measure and see where I need to cut. And again, just using that grain. Now that it's now ironed and starched, it's really easy to follow along that straight line. And then again, just pull a string out for a slight fray. So we've got 3 sides of this done, and do the same thing here with the 4th side. Now with this Shore Living white burlap, I wanted to do a fun like coastal beachy display, kind of like something that you would see like at a museum or like a shell museum or something like that. So I'm going to go over the entire back of the sign with Mod Podge, spreading that all out inside the frame, and then just laying that white Shore Living burlap on top of it. I'm so glad they got different colors of this. I always love crafting with white burlap, but sometimes it can be kind of hard to find. I used to buy the rolls online at Amazon because it was the only place I could find them. And then I thought we would do a shell display. So I want to display them in rows like you would see like on a display exhibit. Now I'm trying to use just Dollar Tree seashells, and I'm trying to pick out like different shapes, sizes of seashells to fill it out. I did a pretty good job. I wanted originally 9, but then I decided to tighten it up and do a total of 12. And I think I just had to use maybe a couple, like 2 seashells from my actual stash from the beach. I wanted a variety, so I think that looks pretty cool. I kind of staggered the ones that are kind of shaped like scallops in and out, so they're not next to each other. And then I'm simply going to hot glue these all on. I lost a little bit of footage here because my son needed me to help him find his switch, and I forgot to hit record again. You know, mom duties and all. But basically, super easy. I just hot glued the middle row down, and we're going to do the same thing here on the top and the bottom. And I think I picked out a pretty good variety of shells. I definitely wanted them to all be different, and I wanted them to be different colors as well. I think this turned out so pretty. I think I might display this in my bedroom. I really like it, and I love the way that it looks like something like straight out of a museum. Anything with burlap behind it, I'm always a fan. That's how it looks. I'm just going to burn off any excess little glue strings, and it's already got a hanger on it and everything. So this little shore living DIY is complete. See how cute the seashells are? I tried to get ones that were not broken because sometimes they are from the Dollar Tree, but I think they're so pretty. I love this DIY. What do you guys think about this one?
And if you find you can't find varied shells from the Dollar Tree, I know Dollar General has them too. I found some really good ones there, or you could use ones that you found on the beach, but so easy to put together.
Okay, another DIY I'm going to make for outdoors, my Florida room, but you could totally use it inside too, is to use one of the Shore Living garden flags. I think this one's so pretty. It says relax, has a little beach scene with the Adirondack chairs, flip-flops and such. Now, I want to make mine into a permanent sign, not just a flag that's going to fly all over the place. I wanted something that looked a little bit more high-end. Now I'm going to use 4 of the wall shelves from the Dollar Tree to make a big slatted sign. It's going to be a little bit too long, but I'm going to show you how you can make it work without trying to cut it down or anything. So it's folded right perfectly in half. So I just took advantage of that seam and cut the garden flag in half. I always say that I'm going to DIY with these garden flags when I buy them, and I never do. So I'm proud of myself for following through on this because it turned out so cute. So these are the wall shelves that I'm going to use. The width is going to be just about perfect for these, but again, they're going to be a little too tall, but that's okay. We are going to be able to make it work, I think. I love these because these are basically just good craft wood, cut down perfect sizes. So if I do like my bottom half up against this one, I'm just going to have to use ribbon or something to cover the very bottom of it. I know sometimes you guys don't have access to a saw and can't cut, so I kind of wanted to give you an option of when these things are not quite the right size you need, little things you can do to still make it work. So going over the entire shelf with a layer of Mod Podge, and then I'm just going to lay my half of my flag on there. This is the bottom half, smoothing that out. And I want the Mod Podge to come through the fabric, so I'm just going to kind of spread that out with like a baby wipe all over. And as you can see, the width is almost perfect for that little garden flag. I want it to be like a slatted sign with the 4 individual signs all together. So I'm going to give it a quick dry here with my heat gun, and then I'm going to cut the fabric off that we can use on the next shelf. So it was super easy to cut. I'm just using a razor blade from Dollar Tree and a cutting mat, and it was just so easy to cut through, and it didn't fray or anything like that. So it was actually really easy to work with. I really like this DIY so much that I went back and bought another version of this flag because now I want to try something else with it. So this is going to be the very bottom. So I'm only going to do Mod Podge on like 2/3 of it because that's all that I have left of my little garden flag. And I set that on there. I'm not going all the way to the edge. If I have a little bit of wood showing, I think that's fine. And just smoothing that out so the Mod Podge goes through that too to keep it nice and glued down. Just kind of centering it on there. It does have that like sewn seam on the bottom, but that's okay. We're going to be covering that area anyway, so that will finish that all off anyway. Here is the top half of the garden flag that we cut off. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the bottom half. I'm going to start with the halfway point there, do a layer of Mod Podge all over, my little wood shelf and lay that on there, gluing that down. Isn't that scene beautiful? I thought about just using this as a garden flag in my landscaping. I might have to go back and get another one. It's so cute. But this is going to look great, I think, out in my Florida room. And I think it's going to really go. I'm trying to make it, I have a lot of like light blue curtains out there, tropical furniture covers. So I really want to go with fun, beachy vibe out there for the summer. And so I just cut off that once I get it dry, like I did the other one, and we have one more sign left here. I'm just going to cut the hanger off, pull the little plastic piece out of the flag, and Mod Podge 2/3 of that sign to the top of the flag as well. Just centering that on there and leaving a little bit of the border as well. I did have to add a little bit more Mod Podge to the top there because you had a couple layers of fabric. I don't want to cut any of that down. I'm just going to leave it all on there all together. Okay, we have our 4 pieces of our little relaxed beach sign. And I thought burlap would look really cute because it's going to be coastal. So this is that wired burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree. And I really like that color. It kind of reminds me of sand. I think that's going to work well. The only thing is you can see through it. And you can see the flag through it as opposed to like the raw wood on the shelf sign. So I am going to do a little bit of painting here. I'm going to paint the shelf and the like very top of the flag white so that when you can see through the burlap, it's going to look a little bit better and a little bit more uniform. Otherwise, you could double up your burlap maybe so that you couldn't see through it as much. But I think this is going to work. So I just need the top and the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing here. I about know how big my ribbon is and how much I need to cover. Basically, just the seam of this one. Painted white. I think that's going to work. So I'm going to dry that paint and then we can go ahead and attach our ribbon to it. Which was pretty easy. I'm just trying to cut a straight edge there on my ribbon to start with and cut that down to size. Just by laying it on there to see how big I need it. And I was trying to determine if I should hot glue it, but I thought the hot glue might go through the ribbon and not look very pretty. So I just do a thick layer of Mod Podge. I did find that it didn't want to stick too well, so I do go over the top of it with more Mod Podge. It's going to dry clear, so it will look fine in the end, but I wanted to make sure that this definitely stayed down. Now, there's still kind of a little bit of a seam there, and to break it up, I thought I would also use some of the Shore Living ribbon. This one is the starfish one. I think that's going to look really cute on there and provide another little decorative touch. I do end up using hot glue there for the very edge to make sure it stays in place. It was a little loose. And then I hot glue down this ribbon, and that worked just fine. And I think that's a nice contrast with the design here. And it definitely took care of the top and the bottom of this sign being too big. So just on the bottom, same thing. We're going to cut the burlap ribbon down, Mod Podge it on. Also Mod Podging over the top to get it good and wet so we can glue that down. And then I'm going to go back and attach some of that Shore Living ribbon to it as well. So I hot glue the little lip on top of my flag and some starfish ribbon to finish it off. Now all we have to do is put all of these 4 little shelf signs together to create one big slatted sign. And I thought the easiest thing for that would be just use some of the twine or rope that came with the shelves, and we can attach it all together. So I'm just going to flip over all of my pieces. I kind of want to leave like a little bit of space in between each sign. So I'm kind of trying to measure that out a little bit. Like that. And then take one of those twine pieces that came with the shelves. I'm just going to tie a knot in the end of mine And using my staple gun, I'm just going to start stapling that on all of my signs. I wanted to make sure those were thick enough for my staples, and they totally are. So we're going to go with this. So I'm just going to leave a little space using 2 staples on each sign until I get to the top. I'm going to leave that same piece from the hanger, right? Kind of measure out how big I need, and then just start stapling that same rope down the other side, kind of everywhere where they had a hole originally. I am stapling that down, and at the very bottom, I will tie a knot to secure that. So easy and functional. And here is our little relaxed garden flag sign. I think it looks so cute. I think it'll hold up well outside because it's made out of that garden flag material. And let me show you how it looks hanging up. Isn't it beachy and cute? I just love the scene and I love all of the colors. I hope you like it too. It makes me want to go to the beach, which was on my agenda today, and it didn't happen because I got stuck working.
Which is no good, but you could do this with really any of the garden flags from Dollar Tree and make them a lot better.
Okay, these are the Shore Living placemats. They had 2 different kinds. They had this one with the shells and the starfish, and they also had just starfish. So I picked out 2 that were the same. I think I'm going to save my ones that are just starfish for 4th of July because the colors are perfect. And so I'm just cutting all of the tags off of them. I picked up 2, and what we're gonna do today is make an easy no-sew pillow with a coastal feel. So I just do a bead of hot glue. These things are so square and line up perfectly, and I just glue that back to back with the 2 placemats. Now you could do like a different one on each side. Do starfish on one side, the starfish and shells on the other side. That'd be cute too. But then I do a bead of hot glue along the seam on the top and the bottom. Again, just laying that all down. No fluff yet. Everything's flat. So we got 3 sides glued down. There's no need to sew this. I do not enjoy sewing. My mother was a seamstress. And I did not inherit that. I have a sewing machine. I try not to use it. Now, to stuff our little pillow, I always save my old bed pillows, at least one of them, so that I have some polyfill without having to purchase it because it's so expensive. And it's the same thing that's in your old pillow. So I am just pulling some of that out piece by piece, and we're going to stuff this. While you have the whole side open like this, you can really get in there and get all the corners. And then I'm going to go ahead and do half of the opening, hot gluing that shut, just leaving a smaller opening so we can finish stuffing this pillow and making it nice and fluffy. So now I can kind of get this section right here. And I think that's enough fluff. It is pretty good and stuffed. So now I just need to seal up my final opening with another bead of hot glue. And just lining up the edges of my placemats. And Dollar Tree placemats make perfect pillows. They really actually hold up well. And I think this is going to look great. I have like a little hall tree in my entryway. And there's a little bench there that you can sit and put your shoes on. And this is going to be the perfect size little accent pillow, I think, to sit there. And I love the pattern. Isn't it beautiful? There's also like coral on there, sand dollars. I think it's so pretty. And how easy was that to put together? I love it. And this is how it looks there on my hall tree. Just a fun, easy, short living DIY.
And they did have these placemats again this year if you're lucky enough to snag some. I know I got some more. I like using them actually as placemats outside of my Florida room as well. They're so pretty. Okay, for the next DIY, they do have these starfish signs again this year. The burlap is a little bit different. Last year they had the starfish burlap, but you can always do this with whatever kind of burlap you can find. It makes it look so cute.
Okay, next Shore Living DIY. We're going to use one of these little starfish signs from the Dollar Tree Shore Living line and some of their Shore Living burlap with that beautiful starfish print. I thought starfish, right? Now, that welcome sign on the front, I was going to have that be the back anyway, but I thought I would just pop that off to use for future. I couldn't get it off. Like, it is, I don't know what they're using to glue these things onto these signs at Dollar Tree, but they must not want them to come off. I gave up and I said, you know what? That's going to be the back anyway, so it'll just be on there forever. We'll have a two-sided sign, okay? Now, this is that beautiful burlap. I love it. The colors of the starfish, it's so pretty. And it's definitely going to be big enough to cover this star. The only thing is when they roll this burlap up to sell it like that at the Dollar Tree, you just get all of these wrinkles. It kind of makes it hard to work with if you don't iron it. So that's what we're going to do. I'm just going to flip it over so I don't mess up any of those beautiful starfish on there. And then I'm just going to use my Cricut Easy Press to iron it on. Here, making it nice and flat. I'm not going to get all of it out, but I can at least get it flat enough to like work with because it was like all over the place. And that's way better. What I want to do is cover the back of this little starfish sign with that beautiful starfish burlap. And we're going to make a really pretty beachy sign. I do want to cut it down to size. So I just use a Sharpie and draw all around the edges of my starfish. I'll know exactly how much burlap to cut out. And then we can attach that to the back. Now, I really shouldn't have used orange because when I did that, I kind of made the edges of it orange. So we'll have to touch that up in a minute. But then I just cut on the inside of the burlap. We're going to cut that down to size. Now, I did kind of want to try your all's trick where if you Mod Podge it first, it's going to make it easier to cut and less fraying, but I'm trying to get 10 DIYs out for you guys, and I just did not have the time. So this is not a very intricate cut, so I thought it would work, and it actually worked out pretty well. Trying not to stretch it or anything like that to kind of keep it the right size, like most of the rays, all the same size. And just trim off all of the orange. And again, we're just going to decorate the back is going to make it easiest. And here's me touching up all of my orange marker on the side with a blue marker. If it's going to be stained, at least we can make it kind of match the project, right? What I want to do is make a really fun burlap starfish or sea star to go out in my Florida room. And this turned out so cute. It was so easy to make as well. Now, this does have a hanger, so we're going to make it that be the top of our starfish. And the burlap kind of looks best that way. I don't know if it's up or down, but I kind of liked it at that angle. And we are just going to go ahead and start attaching it. So just with all of the burlap that we've Mod Podged on today, you got to do a fairly thick layer to get that to stick on there. And I just kind of did half of the starfish at a time. Kind of lining that up, trying not to get too much fraying. I do plan to finish the edges of this, so if there is a little bit of fraying, it's okay. It's going to be kind of disguised. And then, as I did before, I'm just Mod Podging over the top to make sure it's good and wet so it stays secure. Then I'm going to do the same thing here on the top part of the starfish. Super wet, laying those 3 rays down as well. My cut wasn't perfect, but we will touch that up here in just a little bit. And then I am Mod Podging all over the top to make this nice and wet. Make sure it stays down. Then I give it a quick dry with my heat gun. This is my new heat gun that I got on Amazon. And I don't know what's wrong with it. It's already acting up where it doesn't want to work and I have to bang it to get it to work. My old heat gun that looked a hot mess lasted forever, and that thing worked great. Now I'm kind of regretting it. Switching. But I did have a few areas that were kind of hanging over the edges a little bit, so I just trimmed that up a little bit with my scissors, and then to cover up any of the frayed edges and to kind of define it, I thought some of this white rope from the Dollar Tree would be perfect to finish it off. And I'm just going to glue that all around the edges. I'm just going to use hot glue. Hopefully that'll hold up well outside. I couldn't really think of how else I could attach that very easily, because I kind of want it to frame it out and go all along the edges like that. So I just start out like at the bottom, right in the middle, and I'm just putting the hot glue on the side of the rope. I found that that would be a little bit easier, and then pressing that on to the side of our little burlap starfish. And how adorable is that burlap with the starfish all over it? I just love it. I also have some that I'm dying to craft with like the little bees all over it. It's so cute. Dollar Tree is bringing it with the burlap. And so I just work one section at a time, put hot glue on the side of my rope, and there's plenty of rope to make it all the way around the starfish. And it's so cute. I think it kind of coordinates well with the mermaid tail wreath that I made for outdoors. I used the mermaid scale burlap with that, and I outlined that with white rope as well. So I think these are going to complement each other nicely. And we have the starfish pattern on the starfish and the mermaid pattern on the mermaid. So that works. I just cut it down to size. We're going to have it come together right here at the bottom in the middle of the starfish. And just put a little bit of hot glue there to kind of secure the two ropes together. Now, I don't really need to make a hanger for this, because I'm going to kind of just drill this directly onto my wall, because we have hurricanes here and I don't want this falling off. And so I'm just going to reinforce it on the back a little bit with a little bit more hot glue to make sure that it's good and secure to my starfish sign. And then I'm just going to poke a hole in the burlap, so I'll have an area where I can put a nail through there to attach it to the wall. You could put some like a burlap or jute twine through there and make a simple hanger as well. But this is how it turned out. Isn't it super sweet? The colors that they painted the starfish on the burlap are my favorite.
And I think it would look really cute with some of the designs they have again this year. Trying to think the different varieties. I think I got all of them. Last year they had mermaid scales, starfish. I do like the fact that they switch them up, but sometimes they don't bring back my favorites like that one. Hey guys, have you checked out my new website? It's craftybeach.net. It's my new website, and every time I post a video, I'm going to do a blog post. Right now, I'm a couple days behind. I need to go catch up. But basically, I'm going to have a blog post for every video. If you click on that blog post, you're going to see a link to photos of all the DIYs I made that you can then pin on Pinterest so you can remember to make them. If you go down to the bottom, you can find the corresponding YouTube video to show you how to make it or to go watch it on YouTube. I'm going to organize by season. I just started it, so right now I have Easter, spring, and beach. I also have a link to my Amazon shop if you want to try to find some items that I recommended in my videos. I also have a link to my Etsy store if you want some of my fun crafting meme printables on there. So all together, it's craftybeach.net. I thought this would make it a lot more convenient for you guys to find my DIYs and, of course, the links to the pictures.
Now, this is one of the metal lighthouses from the Shore Living line at Dollar Tree. And then there's a Shore Living white shell long sign. Also, some Shore Living anchor fabric and a burlap bag from the Dollar Tree. Now, you guys have asked me to DIY with the lighthouses before because you didn't know what to do with them. So hopefully this will give you some ideas. Now, I've DIY'd with the galvanized metal things before and covered it with some of that like synthetic burlap that those bags are made out of from the Dollar Tree. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I don't necessarily want this sign to be super long though. I just want it long enough for the lighthouse. So as you can see, I just cut off the bottom of it. It's going to make it just a little bit easier to find a place to hang this in my home, and less of a bow if you have a shorter sign, I think too. Now I like the white, but just gonna distress it ever so lightly with some antique wax by Waverly and a chunky brush. I focus on the edges, on the shell a little bit there too. I just want a very light distress. So I go back and clean up any of the really dark areas with a baby wipe and kind of blend that in. But otherwise, I think a whiteboard is a perfect background for this. Now, I did want something to kind of like peekaboo from behind the little seashell, so I thought I would try this anchor fabric. It kind of goes with like a lighthouse theme, right? And cut that out and cover the little window with that. Now, spoiler alert, I ended up not liking this, and I do replace it with something else later, but I'm going to go ahead and include this because you're going to be seeing this all video, so you're going to be like, well, where did the fabric go? So I just cut that down to size, attached it to one side, and then I can just glue all around the edges of the seashell to make a little peekaboo back there behind the seashell, just to give it a little bit of color. And while I'm at it, I might as well go ahead and make a new hanger with some Dollar Tree twine, feeding in from the back, knotting it in the front. So easy. I just wanted a very simple twine hanger on this one. But I like the idea of layering this with the metal lighthouse. I think it's going to make them both a little bit more special. Now, you guys have seen me DIY with these burlap bags from the Dollar Tree. I love them. They're like a synthetic burlap, so they have like a plastic coating on the inside, which makes them really easy to cut, and they do not fray. Now, as you can see, it is like exactly long enough with the seams to cover this, so we're going to make it work. I just cut out a piece of the bag that's large enough to cover the burlap. Then I put the little metal lighthouse on the back, and then I can just sketch out exactly the size of the lighthouse just using an ink pen to get a nice close line that I can use to trim our burlap. Now, you could do this with the rolled burlap as well. I just find this is a little bit easier to work with, but some of you guys have had the great tip that if you Mod Podge your burlap first and dry it, then you can cut it with less fraying and you can probably get around some of these angles a little bit better. But again, I prefer this one, I really do, for something like this. I want something that's going to give me the texture of the windows and stuff that are on the metal lighthouse, and the burlap is just thin enough to do that. So I did notice like some of the corners were a little bit more rounded than I did, so I just kind of rounded my edges on the burlap as well. And then we're going to go in and Mod Podge this on. Now I am Mod Podging like that plastic liner to the metal, so I use a good amount of Mod Podge. Now this is something that it does take a little bit longer to dry because I am gluing the plastic to the metal. So it will move around on you for a little bit, so keep that in mind. I just want to try to smooth that out as much as possible. I want to make sure that it is directly connected to the metal lighthouse underneath because I want the bumps of the windows to be visible to me so that we can add some details to this. I do dry it a little bit with a heat gun, but again, you kind of have to give it a few minutes to dry, just because it's not just straight burlap. And I try to like really rub in between the windows to make sure everything is down tight as can be. And then a little bit more glue here at the bottom because I kind of have that seam down there, but that's okay because that is the base, so it's okay that it looks a little bit different down there. And I think this is going to look really cute on here. I was trying to decide how I wanted to decorate it. I really like the burlap background, but I think it's going to need a lot more detail. So I can feel where the windows are. So the first thing I'm going to do is just sketch out the windows with just an ink pen. It's blue, so it's going to work perfectly. We're going to be decorating this little lighthouse with blue anyway. And that way I can really see where they are. And you can kind of feel with your ink pen, because it has, you know, a fine point where the edges are. You can kind of just trace out all of the windows, which is really the only detail. There was no door or anything on this lighthouse. That way I'll know exactly where to paint. Now I thought about going in with some acrylic. That color is not really working, and I really like using Sharpies on this, and I do have a Sharpie stash because I love Sharpies, and I love the way Sharpies look on the synthetic burlap, so we're going to use that to paint it instead of paint. I found the Sharpie that was the closest color to that fabric that I could find. It's kind of this medium blue. And you can find Sharpies at Dollar Tree. Sometimes their color selection is not the greatest, but I'm always looking for Sharpies like on clearance. I get them at Target a lot. And I'm just coloring in all of the windows. And the Sharpie looks so good because it dries really quickly. It stays exactly where it's supposed to be, no bleeding or anything like that. And then I'm just going to go around all of the edges and do like a light line with the Sharpie just to bring out that lighthouse shape and kind of give it an edge, because otherwise the burlap edges are a little plain on there. It's going to kind of make it pop. I was trying to decide if I wanted to put some blocks underneath of it and kind of make it look 3D and pop out a little bit. But whenever I do that with the metal things from the Dollar Tree, I find that it's really hard to get them to stick. You know, metal can be tricky to glue anyway. So I'm just going to glue it directly under the sign by using a combination of that like Fix-All adhesive by Super Glue from Dollar Tree and hot glue. Just because sometimes I have issues with just hot glue and the metal getting it to stick. So combination here. The hot glue is going to make it stick now. Hopefully the super glue will keep it stuck on there. And that's what it looks like so far. That's when I realized I don't really like the blue anchor back there, but I did want something back there. I didn't want it to be just a cutout, so I was thinking about what I could use, and I didn't really have anything that I could think of, but then I was like, you know what? Why don't I just use that same burlap bag that I used for the lighthouse? Because we're going to decorate the lighthouse anyway, and it can be just a little burlap seashell peeking out. I think that's going to be cute. So that's easy to do. All I did was cut a square and hot glue it to the back. I think my camera died there for a second, but you didn't miss much. And then I want to decorate my lighthouse further. Now for this, you could use paint, pens, or paint, but I really like the Sharpie on these. So I do have another color of blue, a really kind of light blue. And I thought that'd be really cute to decorate this, make it look super beachy. So I'm just gonna color like this little section at the top of the lighthouse blue, to give it some color and break it up. And then I always like a diagonally striped lighthouse, and that's so easy to do. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm just freehanding some diagonal lines on here. They don't have to be perfect. I just do 2 lines and then I just color it in. And the ease of using the Sharpie on this burlap is just so easy that it kind of makes it really fun. It's just like coloring. And then I'm also going to do the base down here just to kind of break that up. I thought about adding a few pebbles down there, but I chose to kind of keep it flat. Also the tippy top, and then I was trying to decide if I needed one more line down here, and then I decided that I did. Just to kind of complete the look. And check out our cute little burlap lighthouse sign. I think it's so cute. I love the colors. It's kind of a little bit neutral with the beachy decor. It's not real bright, but I think it's super cute, and it would really fit in with any of my coastal decor anywhere in my home.
Now, I don't think they brought back the metal lighthouse this year, but a lot of you guys still have them left over from the previous years, and you guys were asking for a DIY with them. And also the longboard signs. I don't know if they've brought them back or if I'm just lucky enough to be finding them at my store.
Okay, another one of the long signs from Shore Living. Sometimes I have a hard time figuring out what to do with these, but I had a fun idea, so I thought I would share it with you. I love the finish of the wood is so beachy, and I love the little seahorse cutout on that one. So I thought I would combine it with just a 5x7 photo frame from the Dollar Tree and some of their white burlap. This white burlap is like an ivory. It's also from the Shore Living line. And I thought a 5x7 frame would be like the perfect size to display this, and we can kind of have a cool little cutout sign. So I just remove all the glass and backing out of the frame. And then you got to be kind of careful when you remove these little staples from these plastic frames, because the plastic is not real tough. But I was able to get all 4 of my little staples out, and look how this is just about the right size for that. And I don't want to do very much cutting on this because I know some of you guys don't have like an electric saw like I do. So let's just do one cut on this one. I think we'll just leave the existing hanger, and we can kind of hide that back there, and that's how we can hang the sign. So we're just going to cut it right here, right inside the edge of the photo frame. The less cuts, the better. So I just took that to my saw and cut it down. It looks good. I was trying to decide which side I wanted to kind of have up and which side I wanted to have on the bottom. Now, the ivory burlap, I'm just going to cut out a little square because we're going to kind of cover the back of the cutout like we did on the seashell, this time with some actual burlap. So it's just a matter of putting it all together. I decided I wanted the back kind of looked better on mine, so the front on mine is actually going to be the back, because when I cut it, it kind of splintered a little, as you can see there. So I just do a bead of hot glue all around my little seahorse, and then I just lay down that ivory burlap from the Dollar Tree. I'm so glad they have burlap at Dollar Tree now. So cute. And I just kind of clean that up and make that look as tight as I can. That's going to be the back of our project. We're not going to add any back or anything to the frame. And then it's just a matter of putting it together. I don't really want these little tabs to stick out that hold the hanger. I kind of want to disguise those a little bit inside the frame, and I should have room to do that in there. So I'm just kind of seeing how that would look. Would the hanger work? And I think it's going to be good. So again, I don't want those little tabs to stick up. So to prevent that, I just hot glue them down so they will stay flat here inside the frame. But that's one less step. We won't have to make a hanger for this. And then I just want to attach it to the back of the frame like that. Now it does kind of sit back a little bit from the front of the frame, but that's okay. It kind of gives a cool little shadow box feel. So along this bead, I'm going to do a bead of hot glue along this little groove on the inside of the frame, and then just lay the little seahorse sign right on top, hot gluing that into place. This was so easy to put together, and it's so cute. It's very neutral. You know, we don't have any colors here, just the woods and the burlap. And I kind of like the white frame, so I just left it white, but you could always paint that as well if you did want to add a little color to it. But I think it's so cute, and just another fun idea of what you can do with those long signs, because, you know, most of us don't have access to anything that can make wood cutouts like that. So if you can get something like that from the Dollar Tree that's already got a cutout of something that you really like, you can make it your own.
And I think that would work with any of the cutout signs. I was recently out of town, and I was able to find a lot of these long beach board signs. I'm really surprised I haven't seen them in my town, but I was able to pick more of them up. They're so cute. Okay, you've made it all the way to the final reveal for all 15 of our Beach Dollar Tree DIYs. In the comments below, be sure to leave me your favorite DIY, or just come say hello. I always love to read all of your comments. Okay, enjoy the final reveal.
For better days to come. This vision that I saw is getting closer every dawn. We are dreamers of the shore. 7 years now on this boat, and we all know where we belong. Just wait. Wait for our home to show on the horizon. Soon we'll be there. Hold on tight. I can smell the shore. It's right in front of us if we just hold on tight. This vision that I saw is getting closer every dawn. We are dreamers of the shore. When we can't read the sky, we just sail with the wind that we've got. And when we're drowning in doubt, just keep on believing. We are dreamers of the shore. I get a little bit breathless. My thoughts are too big. Can I get some comfort, please? I guess I should have been honest. It breaks in my heart. It's weighing me down, baby. I'm like a river that's overflowed. The sooner you know it, the less do we hurt. Let me speak the truth. I know you don't wanna face it. You think it's too late, but I can see past the rain. Won't you lay it on me? Turn the page and burn it. Let's make up a big bonfire on the beach with the stars as our lighters, and throw our problems in the flame. Throw our problems in the flame. We fell down to the bottom, so bottom up please. We're gonna get over this. I see the smoke in the mirrors. I'm holding the key, one step away from salvation. You're like the ocean, setting me free. Out in the open, I'm picking up speed. No bad thoughts penetrate. Hold me like this is the first time. Our destiny calls, not leaving this incomplete. Won't you let...
Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of my video. That always helps. And I want to give a huge thank you to all of my Crafty Beach Bum members for supporting my channel here on YouTube. Thank you so much to Karen O'Haron, Melinda Elizabeth, Jamie Job, Susan Edmonds, Tracy Knight, Nancy Wunner, Julie Miller, Janae Farrington, Pamelia Wren, Maria Grace, Donna Schreiner, and Sandy C. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you'd like to become a member, all you have to do is hit the join button under today's video. It's $4.99 a month. You can cancel anytime, and you're going to get early ad-free access to my videos. Okay, if you would like more beach DIYs, I've got you covered. Check out this video right here. And until next time, happy crafting.